Hey guys, how we doing? Hope everyone's doing well. Happy New Year's to everyone. Hope this 2026 be the year for you. I just want to welcome everyone to our channel, Motivision, Motivational Visionary. We don't see things the way they are, we see what they could be. We've been going through this series, Keeping Head Above Water, and we're now in chapter number 3. We're talking about relationship. I don't think no one was meant to be alone. So the whole idea of having a relationship is having that companionship. And so a lot of people define relationship in a different way. This particular chapter, I love it. All the chapters are amazing, but this particular one, real quick, my daughter, was reading this chapter and she's like, Daddy, I felt like you're talking about me in that particular chapter. And the reason why she said that is the information that I was actually portraying in this particular chapter definitely connect with her, and that's why she made that connection. Even though I wasn't talking about her or her relationship or her situation, I'm trying to be real. I'm trying to be authentic. Definitely trying to connect with the reader, and I think that's the number one thing about this particular book. When you're able to pick up a copy in the store, is that the chapter and how it's written based on real life experience. So I'm not trying to make stuff up just to put in a book. Written based on my experience, people that I've actually worked with, contact with, and so that's why you can connect with it. So just gonna go into a relationship. So your relationship is determined by the friends that you keep. The people you associate with, because they said, bird of a feather, they flock together, and that's been a general premise. In each relationship, it could be determined, life or death, depending on, the person that you're in that relationship with. And so, in that sense, then, you want to make sure that you're choosing the right life partner, or like someone would say. And in that relationship, it's like a team. You're basically two part of that coming together to make it one. So whatever you have over here and whatever you're bringing it to one pool. A lot of people are saying 50-50. That's a new trend now on TikTok, Instagram, all these different discussional panels where people are having that conversation about what do you bring to the table. But they're missing the point. Once you choose to be in a relationship with someone, you're basically deciding like, hey, it's not longer high or day or that individualism. It's now you have to put all that stuff aside. Now you're coming together, and now you're gonna build that bond with that other person. So whatever you're bringing to that table, or what other person's bringing, you're both bringing it together, and it's gonna basically be a lot better, as if you were trying to do it yourself. And so that's why people are worrying about what do you bring to the table. Whatever it is that you're bringing to that relationship, it's gonna be a lot better than what it is. But I would talk about like relationship that has to do with like a man or woman. Um, your relationship have a lot to do in terms of when people see you. They're gonna speak on what they see. So if you present yourself in a respectful way, a way that you're setting an example for those around you, when people see that, they're gonna say a lot on what they see. So therefore, everyone want to show that relationship to be perfect. It's unique. It's loving. Sometimes a lot of people put on a lot of show, and so what you're seeing isn't always necessarily, what the relationship truly is. It's just them trying to put on a front, or they're faking it. But to truly know what a relationship is, you have to be around that person long enough and to see how they interact with each other. Then you're able to see how they treat everyone when no one else is watching. How do they speak softly? Are they rush? Are they harsh with their words and everything like that? And that's what a true relationship is. Now, to get more into this particular chapter in relationship, when you're in that loving dynamic relationship, a lot of things have a lot of factors that have to do with that make up that relationship. So in that sense is when you're pursuing that person, you're gonna do a whole bunch of different things. Um, but then what happened after you basically get that person? Are you gonna still do the same things you used to do before? How do you keep that fire, that passion burning? And I think that's the number one issue with a lot of people because, you know, there's no desire then to basically do all the things you used to do at first because you're saying, hey, I get the woman, I get the guy, so therefore the lack of work that you'd put in, you stop. But should you keep it going? You know, you should. Now here's the other thing too, as we're talking about, keeping your head above water as it pertains to relationship. Sometimes some people get into the wrong relationship, meaning that at first it might seem that this was the right person, but over time you basically realize that, man, this isn't the person I should have been with. And at that point you're so vested in that relationship and you said, oh my gosh, how do I get in it? And this particular relationship is breaking you down, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. And so what tend to happen is you feel like you're trapped. You feel like there's that anchor that is pulling you down. And so how do you break free out of that? Because at that point you're trying to keep your head above water, but all that toxics that in that relationship is just pulling you down. So at some point you have to figure out, how do I cut loose and be able to move on? Now, some people stay, you know what I mean, because they're afraid of the unknown. They're not willing to try again. But they also said, misery love company. So you'd rather stay with the person, even though it's a toxic relationship. You guys argue and fight all the time, while you're basically gonna say, oh, I know this person, I'm totally fine with that, so I'm just gonna basically stay in there. But what tend to happen is you live life with regret. Now you're going back and says, oh my gosh, I wish I had done this, because now looking back, you save yourself all those headache, being stressed out, being emotionally a wreck. You know what I mean? Had you just decide that, it's time for me to move on because this relationship isn't working out. Yes, there is someone out there for everyone, but picking or choosing that right person, that's the key right there. And so does it mean that because you didn't find that right person, that mean that, that's it? You're going to give up? No, you got to keep trying. You got to keep searching. And you will know when you find that right person, because you're going to have a connection that's going to be a lot deeper than just the physical. There's that deeper connection where you connect with the person emotionally and spiritually, and you're able to basically have those deep conversation. Another thing that also happened too with the dynamic relationship is the fact that the infidelity part of it. When someone, heart is broken, or someone cheat on another person, once that heart is broken, it's almost impossible to basically, trying to bring it back to what it was, because there's no trust. A lot of things is lost at that point. So then you have to figure out, okay, how do you move past that? And a lot of times too, you can notice when someone went through a dramatic or a really stressful situation, because you can hear the pain in their voice. You can see the emotion. When you sit, you can see that look on their face, because they went through a very traumatic situation. And sometimes when they see that person, their ex, it just bring up all that bad experience, all that bad emotion, So again, it's almost like, now, how do you get to a place that you can say to yourself, even though that relationship was toxic, even though you experienced all those years of hurt, bitterness, abuse, but still yet you have to find a way to break out of that, because life is so much more than that. And life doesn't always surround that one person. And I think for a lot of people, they just get stuck on that one person. It's almost like impossible for them to move on. But once you decide that, there's more to life, then you're not going to sit there with that one individual. You're going to say, hey, I'm encounter all these different things within this relationship. It's like a river that's flowing. And because it's not flowing in the way it's supposed to, and you have all these different things that are going against you, there's some point where you have to stop, you have to analyze everything that's happening, and you said, you know what, it's time for us to go our separate ways. And I think that's the best thing for a lot of people. But for some reason, they can't find the strength, or they can't get to that point where they said, hey, the relationship is not working out. It's time for us to go separate ways. Instead, they stay, and you can hear a lot of people just talking about the bitterness in their voice, the hurt, the regret of all these years they spent on that one person, instead of basically getting to the point to say, you know what, it's time for me to cut loose of this thing that's pulling me down. Because again, you're trying to keep your head above water. In that toxic relationship, that could be the very thing that's pulling you down. Here's the other flip side, and I'm going to close with this. You find that right person, and that person could be that anchor that keep you secure, safe, and strong, and they're pouring into you love, compassion, respect, and all these wonderful things that you need and desire. Once you find that right person, now you have to take the time out to appreciate them. And that's where, that's how you keep that fire, that flame going. You don't stop. Sure, you're not going to put the same amount of effort in as when you're pursuing them, but what you want to do is you want to basically be intentional about making sure that you're investing in that person. So that way they said, hey, now I see that this person appreciate who I am. I think a lot of times, a lot of people don't feel appreciated. They feel taken, for granted, and they just felt like the person not taking the time to really acknowledge all the wonderful things they're doing. So I think once you get to that place where you find that person, you have to do those things. But that's it for a relationship. Our next chapter that we're going to basically touch on, we're going to look on religion. That's always a hot topic right there. But I hope this particular segment was helpful. Again, guys, you can always pick up this book at Amazon.com or at SilverStreetMedia.com. I'm going to leave a link in the description below, so you can click on the link and you can definitely get that book. All right, guys, see you on the next video. Bye now.